call the regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council Finance Committee to order. Councilor Texera.
President Council, we are going to take a minute of silence for late firefighter that passed away in the tragedy of Brockton, Matthew. Thank you. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councilor. And rest in peace, firefighter Flaherty. Madam Clerk, item number 1.
Appointment of Kira Rodriguez of Brockton, Mass. to the Brockton Redevelopment Authority for a 5-year term ending March 2027. Invited, Kira Rodriguez.
Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ms. Rodriguez is here tonight. I do wholeheartedly support her interest in volunteering. She has a background. She'll share you with her background. She has a strong background in housing that's going to truly help the BRA as we move forward. So thank you, and I hope you'll consider her application. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Rodriguez.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for the invitation to participate in this meeting. I want to share my hopes and thoughts about being part of the Board of Department of Redevelopment. For the last 10 years plus, I've dedicated myself in assisting families in housing, affordable housing. Working in my own community is something that's part of my life and one of the first things I look to do when going into a new environment. I understand that a pillar for economic mobility is investing and working towards redevelopment, and that's why I'm so interested in meeting all of you and the board. Some of my skills include being bilingual, speaking Spanish and English. I also have some experience in starting up small businesses and project directing, specifically where I have worked closely with construction and developers. I would also like to mention I'm a child of immigrants, and that gives me a unique perspective in matters of cultural sensitivities and differences. I would like to learn about the plans that the city of Brockton has and see where my talents align with the needs of the projects. It would be an honor to share my skills and work towards the financial betterment of the city of Brockton, especially now that I'm a new resident. I'm happy to discuss with you personally the kind of work I've done in the city of Boston and my ideas for our home. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your comments.
Thank you. Councilors?
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
My namesake.
Motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Appointment of Dennis Ianieri of Brockton, Mass. to the Parking Authority for a 5-year term ending April 2027. Appointed, Dennis Ianieri.
President, the dean is here tonight. I actually, once Councilor Ianieri retired, I asked him if he would consider coming back to volunteer with the skill set and experience on the school committee and city council.
He's on the school committee?
Without hesitation, yeah. Without hesitation, he said, yes, just let me know when you need me. You know, we recently had a longstanding member resign from the authority, and Dennis definitely has the skill set to add to the base, not subtract. So I do want to thank him publicly for his interest in serving, and I ask you for your strong consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. All rise for the dean.
Don't all stand at once. Good
evening, Mr. Dean.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. And you know, when I was coming here this evening, I said, I don't know where to begin or what to say because I have nobody to argue with anymore. So, I don't know. I mean, it's just a different game. But I will start off saying I wish you all the best of luck. I've been watching you at home. Yeah, I guess that's something you do differently. But in the interim of not being here, but just watching and still paying attention to everything that's going on into the city and how things are going to turn in these next few years. I do want to thank my good friend, former colleague, Councilor at Large, Bob Sullivan, the mayor of the city of Brockton, for just doing probably just what we both talked about doing before I left in January, was if there was something available, I would like to come back and do something within the city and still be involved. So I don't think I need to go through and tell you who and what I've done. And yes, I was on the school committee. And if anyone has a chance to do it sometime, and if you have here, you should do it. But in any case, I look forward to being on the on this board and working with Eric, and I know there's a couple other new members that are going on too. I even met with Eric today, just to have him bring me up to speed on some of the things that are going on. So I'm here now just asking for your support for me to be able to sit and continue to watch things and be a part of the growth of the city of Brockton. So I look forward for being put on this particular commission. Thank you.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
I'm going to ask some questions, but I guess.
Motion's been
Go right
properly
ahead.
made and seconded.
Go right ahead, Counselor.
Have something on the motion, Counselor?
Oh, Mr. Chairman,
We needed, our ratings are down. Counselor,
I should mention that 40 years ago, you and I sat in the school committee, and you haven't changed a bit. So,
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, and nor have you.
oh,
I
I don't
have
know
to say that.
about
Huh? Mr. Mayor? I mean,
already got
former mayor?
taller.
No, seriously, we had a lot of challenges back then. We went through Proposition 2.5. The school committee was always challenging, but we learned a lot. And that can't be minimized. I mean, the school committee members, and we're very lucky to have them here with us now, they do collective bargaining, they do bid review, they do grievance resolution, they do a lot of things that we don't do. And seriously, the skill set that you bring back to city government is very beneficial for the residents. So
Well,
and I just want that part of the record.
No, I thank you for that comment, and that's one of the reasons why I still want to stay involved, and I'm involved daily right now as we speak. So with that being said, go ahead, do it again now.
there's a motion on the floor. Counselor D'Agostino, did I see your hand?
You did. Yeah, again, I just wanted to say that, first of all, when I first saw you walk in, I thought maybe I had been fired already. I was like, geez, I thought I'd get a little longer.
No, I'll give you till next year. Next year's election year. Don't worry about it. There's always room in Ward 3 somewhere.
I got a little bit longer then.
Okay.
No, I'm glad to see you coming back. You know, when I was in my prior role, and I'll explain why I said it that way in a minute, you and I worked very well together, and I know you're going to do a great job. So I'm glad to see you getting back involved. And I will end with, because of your frequently mentioning your prior role, I have been informed that the Ward 3 councilor is no longer allowed to mention that, or they will face some serious razzing from everybody else. So I can't mention what I did before city council.
What did you do before, Counselor?
Nothing,
Okay.
nothing at all.
You know, the best thing I do look at one point, you know, there was a street name for me, so I might still have a chance of getting a garage too while I'm
Well,
sitting
see.
there. I don't know. You know, but I'm only kidding with that, but no, really, you're doing a fine job. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
All of yous are. I appreciate it.
All right.
You done?
I think so. The motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor?
That's all. I want to see the hands. There we go.
The motion passes. Welcome back, Counselor.
Thank you and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Reappointment of Ernest Pettiford of Brockton, Mass. to the Brockton Housing Authority Board for a 5-year term ending April 2027. Invited Ernest Pettiford.
Mr. Mayor.
Chairman, members of the committee, Ernie Pettiford has been a member of the Housing Authority for years. All of you know him, I suspect. He's a caring, dedicated individual. He was a holdover from the late Mayor Bill Carpenter. I met recently with Mr. Tebow, and when I found out that he was a holdover, I said, we have to correct that. He is really a diligent volunteer. And so physically, I don't think he was able to get here tonight, but I strongly would encourage you and ask you to humbly please reappoint him to the Housing Authority. Thank you.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Ordered that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Transfer of $50,000 from Department of Public Works Sewer Personal Services other than overtime to Department of Public Works Sewer Personal Services overtime. This transfer is necessary in order to cover projected overtime expenses and emergencies for the remainder of the fiscal year. Invited Pat Hill, DPW Commissioner, and Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Commissioner Hill, good evening.
Councilors? Good morning. So this transfer is kind of reflective of the kind of year that we had with COVID. COVID was pretty rampant within the water and sewer department. You'll see the water one will be following this. So as you know, the shifts in those departments work 24/7. Oftentimes I had to fill shifts with overtime. Between that and the raises that the unions got, it had a pretty significant impact to my overtime budget.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion is properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
Ordered that the following name, sum be, and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Transfer of $100,000 from Department of Public Works, Water, Personal Services other than overtime to Department of Public Works, Water, Personal Services overtime. This transfer is necessary in order to cover projected overtime expenses and emergencies for the remainder of the fiscal year. Invited Pat Hill, DPW Commissioner, and Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Mr. Commissioner.
Councilors, this is the exact same situation, so.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion's been properly made and seconded. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion is approved.
Thank you, councilors.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to motion to take 8 and 9 out of order, just because they're informational resolves, and the next 2 items, I believe, are related and might take much longer.
Second.
Motion's been properly made and seconded to take items 7 and 8, Counselor, out of order.
Items 8 and 9.
8 and 9, sorry. Items 8 and 9. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes. Madam Clerk?
Resolved, whereas prostate cancer occurs in approximately 250,000 new cases every year. Whereas, according to the American Cancer Society, approximately 1 in 41 men will die from the effects of prostate cancer. Whereas prostate cancer disproportionately affects African American men. Whereas African American men are more than twice as likely to die from prostate cancer than others. Be it resolved to have Stephen Bernard of the Brockton area branch for the NAACP appear before a committee of this council to make a presentation on the efforts of the organization to spread awareness of the efforts to educate the public on the need for early diagnosis and treatment options via the Prostate Cancer Awareness Campaign. Invited Stephen Bernard from NAACP.
Good evening, Mr. Bernard. Floor is yours.
All right. Let's hope I can read my own writing, folks. Hold on for a second. It's my honor and pleasure to be here with you this evening to give you an update on our prostate cancer program here in Brockton. This is not my first time before you to talk about prostate cancer. More than 5 years ago, then City Council President Robert Sullivan invited me to speak before you. This evening, I've been invited by City Councilor Ward 7, Shirley Azak. I'd like to thank Mayor Sullivan and Shirley Azak for the invitation. I come here to speak on behalf of the NAACP. I have to tell you that before I can speak on behalf of the NAACP, I have to get permission from our president, Phyllis Ellis, and she has given me permission. And I want to give you a little short story on not getting permission to speak before the NAACP. Back in 1990, I was invited by the Rotary Club to speak at their luncheon. I was not yet president of the NAACP. I was invited by the respective people, received a letter, and appeared to speak at their luncheon on that date. When entering the hall, the current president, Nan Allison, was waiting at the door and stated, "As long as I'm president, I will speak on behalf of the NAACP." She allowed me to do the opening, and I led the Rotary Club in the opening prayer and God Bless America. And I immediately said, "You will now hear from President Nan Ellison on an update of the NAACP." It's a rule. I broke it, and I learned my lesson. and I'll never break that rule again. So, Phyllis has given me permission. Our health committee members include Janet Trask, who is our chair, and Leona Martin, who is our co-chair. We have partnered with Good Samaritan Hospital, and Lynn Cornelius, the Director of Marketing and Public Affairs, serves on our committee for prostate cancer education and awareness. We are very, very grateful to our state representatives, Jerry Cassidy, of course, Claire Cronin, Michelle Dubois, and our state senator, Michael Brady, for supporting legislation to make certain that the Department of Health awards money for prostate cancer awareness and education throughout the state. The AdmiTech Foundation president and CEO, who's been very, very instrumental in presenting the most up-to-date developments in prostate care and treatment, is the president and CEO of AdmiTech Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to ending prostate cancer crisis by advancing early detection and treatment. During my presentation today, I will give you a review on what we have been doing, what we have done, what we are doing, and what is next. And I'll end by an appeal to you to continue your support. So let me begin my presentation. The Brockton Area NAACP, jointly with nonprofit AdmiTech Foundation and Good Samaritan Medical Center, initiated prostate cancer awareness and community education in Brockton and Plymouth County in 2015. The main feature of the campaign is a broad community engagement, including but not limited to Brockton Mayor, our City Council, multiple community organizations, churches, first responders, police, fire, EMT services, and local media, including the BCA and the Brockton Enterprise. We have established a steering committee that meets every 2 weeks, and we've had 2 to 3 educational events each year, reaching out to countless number of individuals. Our education and awareness campaign created a new and effective model, which is currently being replicated in other parts of the state. Before the program started, African-American men in Plymouth County, including Brockton, had Massachusetts' highest mortality, and it was even higher compared to the state average. White men also had prostate cancer mortality about 15% higher than the state average. However, by 2021, per the National Cancer Institute, prostate cancer mortality in African-American men in Plymouth County decreased by over 55%, and it is now significantly lower than the state average. Between 2015 and 21, mortality in white men in Plymouth County also decreased by 23%, to a lesser extent than in black men, and yet white men mortality is now also lower than the state average. Between 2015 and 21, Plymouth County had a significant reduction in disparities in prostate cancer mortality between black and white men. These disparities are measured by the ratio of mortality of black men divided by the mortality in white men. Per 2015 NCI data, prostate cancer mortality in black men was 2.7 times higher than in white men. By 2021, NCI data, the disparities ratio in prostate cancer mortality was decreased by over 55% to 1.2 times higher in black men compared to white men. We are very close to parity. This prostate cancer disparity is much lower now compared to the statewide and national level, which has not seen significant changes during the same period of time. Since 2015, we have relied on education and awareness to address health disparities in black men. In 2021, we have taken our efforts to the next level by establishing a prostate cancer equity program, with the goal to approve access to states' leading experts who have the most advanced approaches to screening, diagnosis, and treatment available today. In addition to improving access to patient care, AdmeTech Foundation developed a simple and seamless patient referral process to support men during every step of their medical journey, expediting their medical appointment, addressing any questions and concerns, and ensuring proper follow-up if needed. The latter includes implementation of clinical recommendations such as life-saving treatment. We are concerned that Black men are 22% less likely to receive such treatment compared to white men in our state. Any man, age 40, when I say any man, that means not just Black, Hispanic men or African descent, but any man, white men also, age 40 and older, can take part in this program. And our priority focus is, however, on Black, Hispanic, and Latino men. Towards that goal, we have assembled locally 55 program ambassadors in Plymouth County and surrounding area. Each program ambassador is a volunteer with an extensive personal community network of its own. Our program ambassadors took place in a focus group and played a key role in crafting culturally appropriate materials for the program description. Currently, they are letting their community members know about the unique opportunity. Again, we are creating a new model in prostate cancer, this time in improving access to the best-in-class clinical care, and we continue to save lives. Now, I have provided you with flyers of our next virtual meeting. I hope you all have a chance to review the flyers, and with your permission, I would like to electronically send a copy of those flyers to you so that you can share them with your friends, family, and your constituents. And I also included a flyer about our prostate cancer equity program in Massachusetts. I'm very proud to have served the NAACP in this capacity. I hope and I pray that you will continue to support our efforts. We together, caring for our fellow citizens, continue to save lives. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Councilor Azak, you're the sponsor of this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Bernard, for being here this evening. You know, early detection is the key. I learned that years ago, so it's very important that men get tested, and the work that the NAACP and your partners are doing is in our community is really important. So thank you for all you do. You know, this is just informational to my colleagues, so we really want to get the date of April 27th at 6:30 p.m.
Right.
out to everybody. It's a Facebook Live event, correct? And it's
Correct.
at, they can also access it through the website for AdmeTech.
That's correct.
So www.admetech.org. So this is really to bring prostate cancer awareness and help prevent it in our community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Are
Mr.
there any
Bernard.
other questions? Thank you. Have a good
Councilor
evening.
Minicello.
Evening, Mr. Bernard. Nice to see you. Hi, Steve.
Dave.
Steve, I just had a quick question for you. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Oh, I know. It's a tough, it's going to be a tough one. I know. That's what happens when I ask questions. How are you tonight?
I'm fine.
Always good to see you. Is basically some of the reasons access, or is there something biologically in terms of the makeup of African-American men with regard to the higher percentages? Is it that people?
There are a number of reasons why. Many of them have to do with the cultural nuances. Others have to do with lack of access to care, social economic situations, and also to even the medical industry has admitted that they have not, until recently, paid close attention to the mortality levels among blacks relative to whites. And as you see in our clinical care equity program, we'll see in our clinical care equity program that we have a number of dedicated professionals in some of the best medical institutions here in Massachusetts who are making every effort to close that disparity gap by expediting appointments in a short period of time for any man of Massachusetts age 40 or older, making certain that they get screened and tested to see if they are at high risk of prostate cancer. One of the things that we've learned recently is that if there is access, equal access to prostate cancer screening and treatment, that actually black men fare better than white men. So it's a part of the overall American culture, need I say, disparities that exist not only in medical but in other areas. That is a great part of the problem that exists. And when we can communicate with one another, we can close all types of disparities.
And obviously, annual checkups, I would assume, increase the success rate of people, of men, all men who, get tested on an annual basis with regard to their blood, being drawn at an annual checkup. I mean, I've...
Yeah, for men at high risk, which are men of African descent, Hispanic descent, we encourage, the medical industry now encourages them to start their treatment or start to getting screened at age 40. For white men, the average age is age 50. But we would encourage men of all ages to be aware that even though this is a slow-moving cancer, it is very important to detect it early. Early detection, is Shirley mentioned, saves lives. If for early detection, after 5 years, the survival rate is 100%. For late detection, the survival rate is only 28%. Early detection saves lives.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you go for that annual checkup, I mean, a couple of times from personally experiencing high PSA numbers, I've had to unfortunately have a couple of biopsies, and detection is what it's all about. I mean, so every year I go for that annual checkup, and you cannot ignore it. You have to have that done for any man. And unfortunately, there are some diseases and things that are more prone to certain people. For instance, with regard to myself, and northern, I guess people with Northern European background or Southern European background, like I'll give you an example, Dupuytren's contracture. It's sort of a stiffening of the hand, and guess what? All of a sudden one year, my hand started getting stiff, and I'm like, what is this? So I go to my doctor, sends me to a hand specialist. Guess what? People with my ethnicity are more prone to get this thing. Your hand sort of tightens up, and it's just something that people from where my genes, where my relatives in the past, came from, and somehow, somewhere, this is how genetics passes it on to people. So it's a strange thing. But again, treatment, early detection, no matter who you are or what ethnicity, you have to go for an annual checkup. The annual checkup is key, whether you're white, black, yellow, brown. I mean, it's important to, get that checkup, get that blood test. Who knows what it's going to show? And again, for me, unfortunately, I got a couple of things happening, but you treat them. You treat it, and you have to get to the doctor. And some men are stubborn. And that goes across all ethnicities. Some guys are stubborn and don't want to go to the doctor. And I've talked to friends of mine who have not gone to the doctor for like over 5 years. And it's like, are you out of your mind? So, you know, you have to get to that annual checkup, because it basically is preventative, and it'll open the door to certain problems that you don't even know exist. And again, early detection and early treatment.
And my appeal to each of you is to share this knowledge, to share the encouragement with your family members and your friends. Just open the conversation, and you'll be surprised how willing people are to discuss things that you otherwise think they wouldn't discuss, because of diseases that are common to all of us. And prostate problems are common to all men. To all men. Certainly, if you live long, you're going to have a problem. Hopefully, you won't have cancer. And one way to make certain is early detection.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one quick question. If anybody comes through this program, is the screening free? Is that at no cost to the person, or is there a cost associated?
There is a requirement for the program that you have the patient have some form of insurance.
Okay.
Even, what is it called? I'm not the expert here. Last gap, or the last, some form of Massachusetts insurance.
Understood. Mass Health covers this as well?
Unfortunately, we can't help everybody. We're working towards that end. But as the program begins, there has to be some form of insurance.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Counselor.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion has properly been made and seconded. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Resolve, whereas home fires claim approximately 7 lives every day in this country, whereas working smoke detectors can cut the risk of death by over 50%. Be it resolved to have a representative of the Brockton Area Red Cross appear before a committee of this council to highlight their efforts in the Sound the Alarm campaign to install 50,000 free smoke alarms and share safety information in at-risk communities across the country. Invited, Barbara Cotton, Executive Director.
Good evening, Madam Director.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So thank you, Mayor Sullivan, for your enthusiastic support, and thank you, Shirley, for that chance meeting a few weeks ago to appear in front of you to talk a little bit about home fires and our national campaign, Sound the Alarm. So what you may know is that you have less than 2 minutes to evacuate your home during an active home fire. And the Red Cross is renowned for its providing aid and relief during a disaster. But what you might not know is that home fires are the #1 local disaster to which the Red Cross actually responds. And there are 2 to 3 fires every single day in the state of Massachusetts alone. So our 685 volunteers from our 81 cities and towns of southeastern Mass are very, very busy. And Brockton, notwithstanding, has been very, very active this past year. So I've been executive director now for 2 years. My first day was back in the office today. And one of the things that we wanted to celebrate was the fact that Brockton is our focus city for this year for this campaign. So we are committed to helping to make homes safer with our National Sound the Alarm campaign. And the goal is between May 1st and May 22nd to install 50,000 smoke alarms across the entire country. And our commitment here in Brockton is to install 50 minimally, or to make 50 homes safer. And so we're asking for your help and support to amplify that in the community. And I have to tell you that everybody that we have spoken with has been incredibly generous with their support in helping us to amplify that. So on Saturday, May 7th, between the hours of 9 and 1, we will be in the community installing smoke detectors for anyone who calls to make an appointment. So they can do that at 1-800-564-1234, or they can go online to soundthealarm.org. And again, that's for a pre-arranged appointment. We'll be able to get into those homes to install those smoke detectors. What we are doing is a minimum, or I should say a maximum of 3 per home, and also carbon monoxide detectors. And we know that that has been an issue, especially with people running generators or procuring those in the last year. And so our goal is to make those homes safer. And we'll be able to go in, do an assessment, check those alarms. We know that for a lot of our seniors, it's hard for them to access. Sometimes they knock that off the ceiling, and they actually disarm the ability to get out of their homes safely. So we'll be able to come in with those installations. We'll be able to provide some education, as well as those smoke alarms and smoke detectors, and monoxide detectors as well.
Counselor Azak, you sponsored this item?
Thank you, and thank you again for being here, Madam Director. So I just have once again, this is informational. I felt this was really important information to get out. It also coincides with Keep Brockton Beautiful, so we're going to be very busy in the city.
Beautiful and
on
safe.
May 7th. Thank you. So just a quick question. What was the number again for Brockton?
It's 1-800-564-1234, and that's our local call number.
So residents can call, set up an appointment. What are the requirements? Like, what are you going to ask them? I mean, do they?
Yeah, so really and truly for homes that are probably fabricated prior to 1975 would be an ideal home for us to be able to do the installations. We don't have the modern hardwires, so if your home is, fabricated from, 2000 and on, it's probably not going to be a great fit. But we find that for those communities, especially 3-decker homes, senior housing, houses with families, everybody can benefit from an evacuation plan. Again, you only have less than 2 minutes to evacuate. So if a home fire does occur, having that evacuation plan is super important. So whether you qualify for that smoke detector or not, having someone come in and check it and go over an education plan with you is super important, and we'll do that.
Definitely, I agree with you. So is there, could a renter call, or does it have to be like the actual homeowner? I'm thinking if it's multi-families, can like a renter?
Yeah, absolutely. Our goal is to make those homes safe, and so for any resident, whether it's a renter or a homeowner, if they feel that their home or the residence could be improved, then we're interested in helping them out, absolutely.
Perfect. And what was the actual, was it 50, how many were you planning
So our
on?
goal is 50. I'm sure we will exceed that. And of course, if we're not able to install on that day, of course, the call is for volunteers. If any of you councilmen would like to come out and help us that day to do the installs, if you're not making Brockton beautiful, or if you are and you still want to come over and do that, volunteers would be great. We will have bilingual speakers as well. So we do ask a caller if they would be best served in a different language to indicate that as well, so that we can be able to get those education materials out.
Perfect. Well, thank you, and thank you to the Red Cross, and I'll look forward to seeing everybody on May 7th. All set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor D'Agostino.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here and bringing awareness to this issue and for everything you're doing. Real quick, I was just wondering, this flyer, is this something that could be emailed to us so maybe we can share it on through our own networks and try and help to promote?
Absolutely, and I would greatly appreciate that. So if I might send that, Shirley, I could send that over to you,
It
and
would
then
be
you could
great, and I'll
share.
get
That
it
would
to,
be
and it's
wonderful.
also in multiple languages. They had it all.
Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. If there's any other languages, I know we've been working with the fire department. They've been absolutely amazing. We're working with the Council on Aging and getting the word out through anybody that really can help to amplify that. So yes, I'm happy to send that to you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Oh, and I guess I would be remiss if I didn't mention too that it is minority health awareness, and so thank you to Mr. Barnard for mentioning that. One of the things that we also do in Biomed is sickle cell awareness, and we'll be doing a blood drive on Juneteenth, and I thank you again for your support on that.
Thank
Have a nice
you.
evening, thank you.
Ordered.
Chairman,
Counselor Farwell.
I'd like to move after reading, we take 6 and 7 together, we blend them. They seem to be the exact same
Second.
subject matter, and we have the team here ready to answer questions, so.
Yep, makes sense. Motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor to take items 6 and 7 collectively? All opposed? Motion passes.
Ordered that the City Council authorizes the previously appropriated funds of the American Rescue Plan Act that exceed the $750,000 threshold for the following projects: City Hall exterior upgrades, City Hall HVAC, War Memorial HVAC, Senior Center expansion, emergency operations, Liberty Tree and Abolitionist Park, Sycamore Grove, nonprofit fund distribution, DW Field Clubhouse, Cosgrove Pool, Buckley Playground, Hancock Playground, Plymouth Street Playground, Holster Playground, Bent Playground, Hillstrom Farm Park, Parmenter Playground, Tukis Playground, and Otis Street Park, consistent with the spreadsheet below. Resolve, be it resolved that the Mayor, Robert Sullivan, and the Chief Financial Officer, Troy Clarkson, be invited to come before the Finance Committee to provide an update regarding ARPA funding, spending, and infrastructure planning. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan and Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening. If you could just let me, just real quick, relative to the Red Cross and Barbara, I just want to go on the record. So Brian Ardelli, the fire chief, has been excellent. But there is a protocol in place where no active employee of the city can actually do the install, because we're self-insured for liability purposes. So Barbara's been working with Sydney, my chief of staff, and we are looking for volunteers that would be able to do that. So I just wanted everybody to know that. We also, looks like we're gonna be having a location that's gonna be a drive up to be able to work with the team. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you. First of all, I'm excited to be here tonight. 2 weeks ago, last night, I was here before we went to Washington, D.C., and I told you that I was going to come back and give you an update relative to the fact that the CFO and I went to D.C. on not just a fact-finding mission, but an advocacy to get more money for the city of Brockton. The Arpa money, as you know, because we've talked about this before, we've gotten 17 million, a little bit over 17 million in our bank account. We're getting another 17 million. They're telling us, the feds are telling us between late July and early August, we'll have that. Now, bear in mind, that's the amount of money that Congressman Lynch came down to talk about last year. I've shared with you before, we will be getting another tranche of ARPA money from Plymouth County as well. So when you look at the dollar amount, it exceeds, the 38,590 exceeds the 17 plus 17, but that's going to be additional money that we're going to get. So I just wanted to be upfront on that. Also, Dan Pilata, who's our project manager for ARPA, is here. Again, I expressed to you 2 weeks ago, we put out a request to hire someone through the MMA, Mass Municipal Association. Mr. Pilata was the only applicant. I am pleased to say that Dan Pilata is an expert in his field. He also advocated for us when he was a member of the county commission relative to the CARES Act money. He understands Brockton. He's excited to be here. He has a PowerPoint presentation. Troy is here as well in his capacity. Also, I asked Rob May, the city planner, to be here. But I want to be very, very honest with you. When you look at these figures, these are fluid figures. And some people have already yelled at me and saying, Bob, why the hell are you spending money on City Hall? And I'll be quite honest, we have to spend money on City Hall. All of you have been to city events, flag raisings, and we keep saying this is the people's building, right? You put money into your own house. We have to put money into this building. Case in point, look in the corner over there how much water has come down and damaged the integrity of this building. And that's just one minuscule example of what's going on in this building. Council on Aging, we need to add on for the seniors. We need to figure out best practice. Are we going up or are we going out? And again, we're going to have an architect to tell us that. Going up sounds like it's probably the most logical, but with mobility of our seniors, it may not be. Going out might be the best practice. The War Memorial, when I sat on this committee with you, when the elevator here at City Hall was broken, we were in the War Memorial. And do you remember those hot nights, how we could hardly breathe because there's no air conditioning in the War Memorial? It really is a slap in the face of the veterans that call that home. So we need to spend money on those buildings. Bluntly, we need to. It should have happened a long time ago. But this is an opportunity now where we're getting a windfall of money and we need to spread the wealth. Now, I know Councilor Castro has spoken to me about other parks, and I'll be honest about that. We went to Tim Carpenter in his role as the parks director and said, give us a list of parks. Some of these make sense, some of them may not make sense. You know, David might have, or Rita may have other parks that we need to consider, and we'll do that. And I've made that pledge to you. I've made a pledge to Councilor Thompson. Sycamore Grove, it's on here. We're committed to Sycamore Grove. We're committed to the beach in the city of Brockton, which is the Cosgrove East Side Pool. But real quickly, I just want to tell you, when we went down to DC, a couple things we really wanted to share is, first we visited, as I said, the Ambassador to Cape Verde. Really wonderful meeting. We're going to have additional meetings here in Brockton. I made a pledge to form an alliance with John Mitchell, New Bedford Mayor, and Michelle Wu, Boston Mayor, because again, the populations of Cape Verdeans in Brockton, Boston, and New Bedford, we need to have a synergy there. And the ambassador supported that, and we will be working on that in the near future. We also visited the U.S. Chamber of Commerce down there. To my amazement, when you walk in the building, this magnificent building, up on the wall it says Brockton, Massachusetts. And I was trying to figure out why it says Brockton, Massachusetts. Well, Brockton was one of the original incorporators of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It wasn't called Metro South Chamber of Commerce back then. It was called Brockton Chamber of Commerce. But that was a really cool fact-finding mission on that one. Now, we just got the second Distinguished Budget Award for the GFOA. So Troy and I wanted to visit the GFOA, and we did that. And they're very impressed with the actual physical budget that the city of Brockton has done. Those were meetings that were really beneficial. But the meat of the meetings were to meet with Congressman Stephen Lynch, and we also met with Congressman Bill Keating. And some people said, well, why are you meeting with Keating? He doesn't represent the city of Brockton. That's not his congressional district. I'll tell you why. We own a portion of Silver Lake, right? And we are going to have to spend money on the pipes to Silver Lake. And that is the congressional district of Bill Keating. So I want to thank Congressman Lynch, who has always been an advocate. He came to this chamber. He was the first elected official to come to this chamber when COVID started killing Brocktonians. He stood right here. Many of you were there that day. He understands Brockton. He has been an advocate for Brockton. Bill Keating, I didn't know. He also is advocating for us. And then the last meeting we had was with Senator Ed Markey, U.S. Senator Ed Markey. Ed Markey grew up in Malden, Massachusetts. It's very similar in scope to Brockton, Massachusetts. So he was able to share stories, and I was able to reciprocate. And one thing I said to him was, I used to lifeguard at the Campello, Montello, and Cosgrove pools. And back then in the 80s, you know, that was the beach, Senator, that was the beach. And he said, you know what, Mr. Mayor, I learned how to swim at the pool that's in Stoneham on the Malden line. So what do you want to do with the pools? And I said, I want to invest substantial money, millions of dollars in this pool. We have to do that. We have to provide ample opportunity. We all know what happened with that tragic double drowning up at DW last year. We need to provide the resources to kids, also job opportunities. Lifeguarding's not a bad job, right? But we also have to make sure that that's an Olympic-sized pool over there, right? We need to make sure that we spend the right money on that. And he said, you understand how federal earmarks work. Well, I do understand, but please share with me. And so on the House side, meaning the congressional side, Congressman Lynch, the deadline was last week, the 14th. So we submitted 3 earmark requests. We submitted an earmark request for the Cosgrove pool. We submitted an earmark for the EOC portion of the public safety building. And we also, the third earmark request was relative to the sludge dryer that we need to invest money on. Now, Congressman Lynch has accepted those and submitted those on the House side. On the Senate side, their deadline is the 22nd. So I do want to give a shout out. I want to thank Paul Armano. Paul dropped everything and he worked tirelessly on this, and I want to thank you for that, Paul. We met the deadlines on the House side. We will meet the deadlines on the Senate side. What that means to us is when we get earmarks, and I felt confident, I'll let Mr. Claxton speak for himself, but I felt very confident leaving the Dirksen Senate office building that day that we're going to get some money. Well, the good thing about that, first of all, is that's a separate tranche of money outside of Arpa. So if we're spending $4 million on the Cosgrove pool, we're not going to be spending $4 million of ARPA money because we're going to hopefully get an earmark. It's going to be able to do a reduction, which is beneficial because we'll be able to spread the ARPA money as well. So another thing I just wanted to let you know is that the last thing that I advocated for on behalf of the city is getting electrical vehicles. As mayor of the city of Brockton, I also chair the Bat Bus Corporation. We need to get electric buses. We also just bought a whole transportation fleet on the school side. If we can get electric buses as well, that's a win-win for our kids and our staff. And also the electric charging stations. So what I asked the senator and the congressman is, can we earmark that? And they explained to Troy and I, that falls outside of the earmark. What that is, that's federal grant subsidies. We can apply, meaning the city of Brockton will apply Brockton Public Schools will apply, and then the Bat Bus Corporation on their own will apply. That didn't have a deadline yet. And that money will be passed through to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it will be spread out to the 351 municipalities. So that was the mission, and we walked away there feeling very confident. Why we're here tonight is to talk about the American Rescue Plan Act. And again, my view has always been to be collaborative with you. We agreed, mutually, we agreed upon a threshold of $750,000. And I still support that. I know that other mayors have different opinions, but I'm the mayor of the city of Brockton, and I'm always gonna work with you and for you. So what we need to do is to try to figure out what's the biggest bang for the buck. How do we spread this money? Because it is historic. It really is once in a lifetime opportunity. And any additional money that we get from our friends in Plymouth County is gonna help the cause as well. So we can talk about the infrastructure Build Back Better that we talked to with the senator and the congressman. And again, that money is still to be determined. But I will tell you right now that had we not gone down to Washington DC on that trip, we would not have the opportunity to get potential millions of dollars of earmarked money. Now, the Sycamore Grove is a game changer for that area, and I know Jeff has been an advocate for that, but there's other areas in the city of Brockton that we also need to spend a lot of money on. Now, why we have Abolitionist Park, Liberty, again, that's a number that looks really high. And in my humble opinion, a lot of these numbers are not going to be hard numbers because it's going to be some fluctual. We're going to be able to divest some of this money when we get additional money coming in. But Abolitionist Park is something that Rob May, as a city planner, has been a proponent for before I was even mayor. I will tell you this, when I gave a piece of the Liberty Tree to the governor and to the lieutenant governor, I did put a plug in saying that currently the city of Brockton doesn't even own that part of the tree area. You're coming up Frederick Douglass on the right, there's a little plaque from the class of 1959, Brockton High School. We don't own that, the city. It's privately owned. So we are working diligently because that's a piece of history that the city needs to acquire, in my humble opinion. And ultimately, if we get there, I have to come back to get your approval from a legislative body perspective anyhow. But in terms of Arpa and how we got to where we are right now, my first thing I did as mayor was I asked all department heads to give me capital projects. I surveyed my department heads, and they gave me, and I'll tell you, a lot of it is sizable amount of money. Some are reality, like real-time events. Others are down the line. We're talking $300+ million on capital projects. But I wanted to get a survey from those that have been doing this for a long time, right? And I also then did a citizen survey. And I want to thank Paul, and I want to thank Davison in my office. They've been running point. If you go online right now, you can still answer the citizen survey. The last citizen that did was on April 12th of this month. Why that's important is we're getting some perspectives that none of us in this room may have. I will tell you, though, a high percentage of the responses is parks and playgrounds, parks and playgrounds. Now, the other thing that we did, and I am really proud to say, as I said to you before, we put $2 million aside. I took $2 million and I said, our nonprofits, our recognized 501c3s, we need to spread the money to them. We had 46 applicants. We have made a pledge, on average, about 50,000. And I believe, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, 43 out of the 46 or 45? 42 met the thresholds under the federal guidelines. So we're going to be able to spread that. But it was a open, transparent process where they applied. There were guidelines. The other three things that are extremely important is we did 3 different events, Q&A in multiple language, Haitian Creole, Spanish, English, and Cape Verdean Creole. And again, we were able to help and work with the different nonprofits. $2 million, a lot of money, a lot of money. And we're spreading it, and really, you know, the proof is in the pudding, but we're gonna get a lot of benefit out of that money, and I wanted to make sure about that. In terms of, you know, the estimates that are before you tonight, why I've used the word, and I know Troy, because I read his memo, why it's fluid, is some of these may change. If the old Gilmore Playground is the one that Councilman Castro is really advocating for, Tim Cruz is on vacation. I mean, Tim Carpenter's on vacation this week. It's school vacation week, but we'll sit down with him next week and we'll figure it out. So again, I ask you to continue to be an advocate, as you always are, for the community. We want to spend this ARPA money the way it should be spent. We also have to make sure that we spend it in a manner that's going to really get generational benefits for the next generation of folks. So again, Troy can answer any questions you have. I'll be here. I'm happy to jump up as I always am. But Mr. Pilata drove 2.5 hours because he lives in a place called Row, Massachusetts, also known as Nowhere, Massachusetts. It's way up in the, I don't know where it is, but he drove here because he wants to share his insights. And I will also tell you that he was also here earlier today because we are looking to hire what they call a house doctor. This is an architectural group, and looks like we narrowed it down to probably 2 that would be able to work for us to manage the process as well. It was not fair to have Mr. Plouffe in his role or Pat Hill in his role to manage the process. That's why we have a project manager, Mr. Pilata. But, you know, as I said before, Troy and I will come back as much as you want us for updates, but this is the first night of many nights where we need to figure out how we can use this money to benefit Brocktonians. Thank you all.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, you say, you know, the city needs a lot of updates, but it did just accomplish a major milestone tonight. We've managed to fit 1/5 of the town of Row into the City Hall chamber. Councilors, anything from you, or would you like to put these?
I just wanted to get on the
Councilor
record
Farwell.
just to the mayor and to get it on the record for people who watch this program. These figures are allocations. There will be public bidding. There will be scope of services that are published. And so I think it's so important for the public to understand City Hall exterior upgrades, $4 million. After everything is said and done, after all of the bids come in, it could be $1 million less. But it is a one-time opportunity.
Yes.
And so I think it's important for all of these to go forward. But I just want the public to
Yes,
know, we
you know,
still go through the full procurement process. ARPA funds, you don't spend them any differently than you would any other fund.
No, thank you for saying that, Counselor. So, you know, I'm a lawyer, right? I worked hard to become a lawyer. I'm an officer of the court, so everything has to be above law at all times. That's the way, that's my moral compass. So Mike Morris has been a procurement officer for the City of Brockton under many administrations. Mike has been working hand in hand with Mr. Pilata. So these numbers, you know, we intentionally went up high, right? Because right now, as we all know, the price because of COVID of steel and supplies and all that is astronomical. But it has to go through the whole process of procurement, much like any municipal bidding. It has to. You have to honor the CMR concepts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Troy, you want to take the floor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. If I could have the presentation up on your screens. I did provide you yesterday with an overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. I'll share with the first few slides with you and then ask Dan to come up as he is the subject matter expert on the specifics of what are planned. But I did want to reiterate a few important things that the mayor said because, and it's important, I think, for the folks at home that are watching to understand that this is not a typical appropriation process. This is different from the way we appropriate money for virtually anything else, right? We already asked you to appropriate this money, and you did, when we accepted the grant of the Arpa money. So really, we're working together to find a way to be transparent and engaged, and the mayor mentioned a couple of the methods that he's employed to reach out and understand what's important to the public and to our department heads. And we've been talking to you all along, but tonight is a major opportunity to talk to you about what we believe is important and to gather your feedback. But the mayor said it, but I'll reiterate it because it's important. This is our first major report, but one of what will be many reports. And Councilor Farwell brought up a great point because these are fluid estimates of the priorities that we would like to invest in. But as Dan does his work, and he'll explain to you in just a minute, just today, he and a team of Brockton staff interviewed architects and engineers that will now, we will hire 2 different companies to be beside Dan and help design these projects. And so as those professionals progress, we will have clearer estimates. As the bid processes occur, we'll have clearer estimates, and we will continue to report to you on a regular basis so that the specifics of these priorities are clear to all of you. So tonight, really what we wanted to do is give you an overview of those priorities that the mayor, with lots of input, has identified, and then Dan can talk about where those estimates come from and what the scopes of work will be for these different projects. So just to review very briefly, we know that ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act, and the federal government has committed to just over $34 million in direct aid. They also allocated an amount of around $100 million to Plymouth County, and we will be lobbying for our fair share of that money. We believe, based on the formula that was used for distribution of CARES Act funds, that that should be at least $16 million for the city of Brockton. I hope that our friends at the county are watching this and hear that clarion call from us.
I think it should be even higher, but that's my humble.
Let the record reflect that the mayor and the CFO believe it should be even higher.
Second.
So in the aggregate, we know that we will hopefully be able to spend at least $50 million in investment in this city's infrastructure and buildings. I do want, before we get into the specifics, to also talk about the fact that we've talked in this room many times about infrastructure and roads and how important that is to all of you and to the citizens of Brockton. Please remember that on the heels of all of this ARPA money, this Commonwealth will be distributing millions of dollars more to Brockton in infrastructure money. So the bipartisan infrastructure law that we've all heard so much about is unrelated to all of this. And we are already working with the Commonwealth and the administration, and some of the time we spent in Washington was meeting with some officials to decipher how that money will be distributed. So this is only the beginning of what will be a multi-year process of investing tens of millions of dollars in this city. So I don't want the councilors or the public to think that this is the limit of what we're going to do, because there's a lot more work in underground water and sewer projects and in paving that should and will be done. Not at the expense of this, but in addition to this. And I think that's really an important point to make as we embark on discussing specifics. Next slide, please. So as you know, and I've provided that report to you, there's another report due to the federal government at the end of this month. And when that's filed, I'll provide that to you as well. But we have allocated to date just shy of $8 million. And we have requested, outside of the request that you'll see here tonight, some $4.2 million from Plymouth County out of their allocation for some test kits that we procured, and also for the purchase of the May Center that we've talked to you about. That the money that's been spent is listed here on this next slide, if you'd show the next slide. So we've invested over $3 million in the Shaw Center and the baseball stadium. As you know, that was a critical investment, stepping up that building to get it ready to be a regional testing center and to make the necessary improvements in the HVAC and some of the ancillary systems in the baseball stadium. As part of the last round of collective bargaining agreements, we did commit almost $4 million in premium pay for our public workers. And there are some smaller items there you can see as the first step to accessing what will be bipartisan infrastructure law money for expansion of broadband in the city. We are in the process of a broadband study. There was a small critical project in one of the fire stations to accommodate one of the new pieces of apparatus we bought. We did purchase some cybersecurity software, which was a specific allowed use of the funds, and the administrative costs are estimated. That's over the 3 years of this money. That includes some administrative costs and also includes Mr. Pilata's salary, which, by the way, is being shared with the school department. Next slide, please.
Could you explain why that is, please?
Of course, yeah. So the Deanne's salary is being shared with the school department because in addition to all of this money, the schools are also the beneficiaries of some $35 million in federal funding. Theirs is called ESSER funding. And so with that money, they will be investing money in school facilities. And so because he's an expert in public construction, he's also helping out the schools and some of those projects, and he can certainly talk specifically about those. The major building projects that were here tonight, and the mayor mentioned them, but they're listed on this next slide. Yes. So exterior upgrades here in City Hall for $4 million. HVAC compliance, but you'll learn from Dan in a minute, that's far more than just air conditioning in this building. The reason why this room is very warm right now and others in this building are probably 10 or 15 degrees cooler is because there is no fresh air in this building. But Dan will talk about that more in a minute. The mayor talked about the senior center addition and the need to accommodate our most vulnerable population and provide them additional space to congregate at safe social distances, the War Memorial, of course, and the EOC upgrade. So what we'll do next, and I'll ask Dan to come up and join me at the lectern, is to talk about these specific projects. And with your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, I'll seek questions and input from the councilors. But the first slide, next slide, please, is the City Hall. This building was built in 1892 and has not had a significant renovation since then. That's some 130 years. And so the description of those two scopes of work, including adding a new, how do you pronounce that, Dan? DOAS, D-O-A-S, direct outdoor air system.
I'll take it.
And also securing the exterior of the building so that the work we do on the interior of the building remains its integrity, and the leakage that occurs right now ceases. But Dan, maybe you could talk a little bit about the specifics.
So the City Hall is in desperate need of fresh air. It's in desperate need of conditioned air. It's in desperate need of some of the infrastructure to be upgraded, piping and the such. We're taking an approach of Councilor Falwell asking about procurement. We're actually looking at this building as being procured two ways, 25A and Chapter 149. So 25A for things that we can write off to energy to help with the Green Communities Act and credits for that program. And 149 for any work that's going to be needed to be done to facilitate the 25A work. The building has leaks everywhere, not just in this corner. If you walk in every office, you'll find loose plaster, and they got to be fixed. And the $4 million is going to allow us to hire an envelope specialist to identify every single problem. And based on the age of the building and the size of the building, we estimate that, you know, it's going to cost no greater than $4 million to finally get the perimeter of this building sealed up. That's going to be also needed for the HVAC compliance. As we start bringing fresh air into the building, there's going to be pressure movement within the building. We want to make sure we have a nice tight envelope so we don't lose energy. All of the fresh air that comes into the building will go through an energy recovery wheel where we take the therms from the heat, from the exhausted air, and transfer them to the incoming air. It's technology that's been around for about 10 years, and it saves a tremendous amount of energy. Your biggest energy use in this building will be fresh air makeup and tempering of fresh air. So that's basically what the HVAC project is going to be, and the envelope project is going to be in a 50,000 foot level. Now, of course, this building is 130 years old. Some of the walls are 2 feet thick. They're load-bearing masonry. So we have a lot of work to do, a lot of discovery to do, a lot of structural analysis to do to get duct work through. We think we've got pretty good chases that we can get most of the work through and not intrude on any of the corridors. So the corridors will remain similar to what you see today, but they'll be work in almost every office in this building. So when you go into the mayor's office, it's either stifling or freezing, and it's always stuffy. There's no fresh air in the mayor's office, none, zero. You open the window. And by the way, that's the way it was done in 1890 when the building was built. Just like an old school, they opened the windows in February when the heat got too hot. So we're going to correct all that with the City Hall project. I'm going to keep going to the next slide. Oh,
One thing, if I could, when we look up here, we see the fresco.
Yeah.
Allegedly, this fresco's downstairs, right, but they did drop ceilings. So we are going to look at what that would entail to bring the frescoes back. We can't make a promise, but I know when the former city clerk, Mr. Zioli, was here, he shared with me that he saw some of the frescoes, and they're beautiful. So again, just bear in mind, if we can recapture the historic aesthetic beauty of the interior, we will do that as well.
One more point, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, what we do in this building will have a mass historic review. So we're not running wild through the building. So everything that gets done in this building will have a mass historic commission review, as with the War Memorial.
One more quick point on the numbers, and then Dan can provide the rest of the overviews to you. But a critical point I think to make to you is, so the estimates are $4 million and $8 million for these two projects. If those numbers are less than that, unlike a regular project, when you appropriate a certain amount, say the $19 million for water work that you did recently, that money stays in that appropriation. But because what's before you tonight are not appropriating money for each of these projects, because you've already done that by accepting the money, these are just project estimates. And so if the $4 million project comes in at 3.2, that $800,000 is still available within that ARPA pool of money to either be dedicated to other projects or to fund new projects. So that's why our regular reporting to you is so important, so that you can stay engaged and informed on exactly how this money is being spent. So these projects, although the projects stand alone on their own, the money does not, and it's all part of that overall pool of money. I'll step back so Dan can explain the rest of the projects.
The next project should be on your screen is the senior center. Your senior center is obviously woefully undersized for the size of your senior population. And, you know, with the COVID and Arpa, we're allowed to expand spaces like this for COVID reasons, so that the seniors can socially distance. You can fit approximately 3,600 square feet on the site that's there if we go horizontally. We have not done a study on going vertically like the mayor just mentioned, but I would probably guess that it's not going to be feasible. But we will continue and do that study. The 3,600 square feet would be in addition to the multipurpose room, the dining area. And that building also, the HVAC system is 24 years old. Codes have changed 4 times since then. And we're going to upgrade the air in that building also. So, and because we're upgrading the air, the ceiling tiles, some cosmetics will have to be done. So the place will look really nice when we're done, and you'll have the additional space. The War Memorial Building was built in 1929. It is 93 years old. It is in incredibly good shape for a 93-year-old building. It needs some love, and it needs some fresh air. It needs some conditioned air to be usable in the summer months, and we can use the fresh air and the conditioned air to make this building upgraded. A lot of the windows are original and need to be replaced. Same rationale with this building. You've got leaking, and you know it has to be done. So our thought was to try and deal with the roof, the windows, and deal with the HVAC all at once, and try and take care of the envelope of this building and the physical plant so that no one has to touch it for another 20 or 30 years. The next on the capital funding schedule is the EOC. The EOC is going to be located within the new police station building that you have appropriated a bond for a year ago, or so ago. The EOC will bring that function where it belongs, which is within the police station. So these are some additional costs that ARPA can pay for because the EOC is a first responder system. Parks, a lot of parks. First and foremost, the Cosgrove Pool needs, I don't need to tell you, you've all been there, it needs a lot of work. Probably just about every piece of plumbing is going to need to be looked at, tended to, including filtration for the pool and restroom facilities. The remainder of the list are projects that vary from replacing basketball courts, tennis courts, fencing, providing parking throughout all of the parks that are listed between the Buckley, Hancock, Plymouth, Holster, Bent, Hillstrom, Perimeter, Tucas, and Otis. These were all projects on a list from Recreation Director Carpenter, and we think we've captured everything that was on his list. Like the mayor said, obviously we'll be able to put additional parks on here that are missing. Public Works projects, these reimbursements are going to be sought through Plymouth County, include a transformer project at the wastewater plant, ultraviolet disinfection at the wastewater plant, programmable logic controllers, which helps the efficiency of the plant, biosolids management design only, Silver Lake treatment media for fresh water, and Silver Lake programmable logic controllers for the upgrade and efficiency of Silver Lake. Public interest projects, Sycamore Grove, I think you've already talked about. The Liberty Tree Project, which is the purchasing of a tree and building a park around it. And the mayor briefed you already on the nonprofit distribution. And I think that does it. I'm here to answer any questions or comments.
All right. Counselor Azak, your hand up first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Pilata. Thank you for being here this evening. And I'm not sure who can answer this question, but it's a compliment, and at the same time, I'd like to add something. So the lighting, I think it was under work that's already been done. The lighting on the first floor near the artwork, I have to compliment you, Mayor. I noticed it, I was in that next day, and I was like, wow, it's really, you can see in here. So it's really nice, but then it made us think about preserving that artwork, and that's really one of our treasures. I didn't see that anywhere. So is that something that we can add? Because those paintings are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
So ARPA funding is COVID-related, has specific categories. Cleaning artwork's not going to cut it. Preserving artwork is not going to cut it. We're trying to do this so that we have a clean audit, and there were 3 park projects that were on the list that didn't pass. So we're trying to do what we think is best within the rules of ARPA.
Sure, I understand that. The only reason I asked is I didn't know lighting.
I'd love to restore it.
Yeah.
I love
So
history.
what I can say is I'm committed under capital projects for that. We actually have a group of folks working with Adelsa Mendez from the BRA and Robert Jenkins. They're doing right now, they're capturing by photos the buildings that they're taking pictures of here at City Hall, the library, the main library, and the central administration school committee building. There's some artwork in there as well. We have already asked Eastern Insurance has our policy on our artwork. We want to make sure that everything is captured under that has any value, either monetary or historic. But we will have a capital project. When we have dignitaries, or even when AMC was filming their series here, everybody that comes in this building remarks at the artwork, right? And when you go to the main library, it's the same thing, right? I remember going there as a little kid and you see the Buccaneer painting, right, on the ship, and it's just awe. But when you go to Mike Thomas's, Superintendent Thomas's, when you walk around that building, which was the old post office, there's artwork in there as well. So it wouldn't meet the parameters of ARPA, Counselor, but as long as I'm mayor, I support the arts, and we're gonna make sure that, number one, it's insured properly, it's safeguarded. More importantly, we don't want any Isabel Stork Gardner happening here in the City of Champions. And also, we want to make sure that any capital money could be used to make sure that it's displayed properly. And that lighting was something that I asked him to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question I have regarding the list that was given to us. You have on here nonprofit fund distribution. I know that that was the grants that were given to nonprofits and religious institutions. Has that all been given out? Did we give out the $2 million or?
I'm the builder.
The answer is no, but there was a pretty meticulous process where a member of my team and a couple of folks from the mayor's team reviewed all of the applications, and I think decisions have been made on funding, as Paul said, 42 of the 46 nonprofits and faith-based organizations that applied. And so the mayor and his team are working on actually a public announcement and distributing. The funds will be distributed in 4 separate payments. As they get their payments, there are reporting requirements that they have to the city. Those will be evaluated, and if they meet those reporting requirements, then they will get the subsequent payments. But I'm sure the mayor will gladly share with you the specifics on the distribution, because that's coming up soon.
So we had a committee. We had in my office Brady Winston and Jasmine Bradshaw, and we had Paul Romano on that committee. We had law department. We had Greg on that committee. What else was that? That was it, right? Yeah, that's it. A couple applicants just didn't meet the standards. They weren't recognized 501c3s. You have to be. We will be doing, and all of you will be invited, as will Plymouth County officials and the state delegation. We'll be doing a ceremony in a few weeks. We're trying to make sure that at least a vast majority of those recipients will be able to be here. We're going to do it outside, so all the elected officials, of course, will be invited. We were able to really spread the wealth to the point where we were very creative. I could tell you one applicant got 100% because that applicant only wanted $15,000. Others wanted $200,000, and they didn't get $200,000. They were getting $50,000. So again, the $2 million, every penny of the $2 million has been spread to those 42 different civic groups.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
for all your work on that. I think it's important in the community. And last question, I see that Emergency Operations Center. So when I first saw that, I thought it was for emergency operations in the War Memorial, but you just explained that it's for the new public safety building?
EOC, being a city council for 14 years, I had always heard EOC. I didn't even know what EOC was. The night of the riot in Brockton, I knew what the EOC was. Moses, you were with me that night. We use the EOC, we ramp it up in the War Memorial for storms and other really serious events. The EOC is going to be taken out of the War Memorial. It's going to go into the new, it's not a police station. It's a public, I just have to correct that for the record. It's a public safety facility for fire, police, BEMA, which is the EOC, led by Steve Hook, and also the IT department is going to leave Brockton High School and come there, 4 departments. It's going to free up classroom space at Brockton High. The EOC is what I was talking about with Senator Ed Markey. The way that they do it on the House and Senate side on the federal level is earmarks are specific to committees. The EOC falls under the Homeland Security Committee of the Senate and House. So that's the earmark that we've requested on that.
Perfect, so my question to this is, so will this $1,800,000 be taken out of what would have normally come out of our budget for that building?
I will say crossing my fingers, yes. The max you can get on an earmark is $2 million. That's the most you can get. But we were also told that a lot of times it's shaved in half. But if we get $1 million, we're only gonna spend $800,000. It's a win-win for us. We can spend the $1 million on what Troy said on other projects here that meet the ARPA guidelines.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, for providing an update and listing out your priorities for the ARPA funding. We've been speaking about ARPA for a while now and how it will affect Brockton and its impact on our city. So I'm glad that we're finally putting a plan together and finalizing that plan. We have spoken in the past about Sycamore Grove. I'm happy that you chose to fund Sycamore Grove through ARPA. As I said, we spoke about that project and how important that public green space is. I made my pitch for it a few weeks ago, so I'm grateful and I commend you for funding this important project. I think our next priority in that area should be developing a comprehensive parking plan. We have a few street lots. We have the Adams Garage in that area. I think we need to develop an easy and convenient parking plan to support Sycamore Grove and the abutting businesses there on Main Street. I think we should also consider automating the Adams Garage and making that a 24-hour facility if that's possible. I do also appreciate the funding of repairs to the Cosgrove pool. As you said, that's, you know, it's a beach to a lot of people here in Brockton. It's over the past few decades, it's provided a lot of enjoyment to many families on the east side and throughout Brockton. I think with these repairs, potentially we should consider having some swimming competitions out of this pool. I'm not 100% on this, but I believe Cosgrove is only one of 4 outdoor 50-meter pools in the Commonwealth. That's correct. I think if we could get some swimming competitions out there, bring some buzz to that pool, and also, as you previously stated, some swimming lessons out of Cosgrove. Just wondering, I know I've swam in Cosgrove. I know the bottom of the pool is getting a little prickly, you know, and if you get down to the bottom, you know, your feet, it's getting roughed up. So I'm wondering and hoping and probably assume that part of this repairs to Cosgrove will be to kind of smooth out that surface on the bottom of the pool.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Counselor. Yeah, there's only 4 in the Commonwealth, and the late Mark O'Reilly, who was a lot of our swimming coach at Brockton High, used to be chief of staff under Jack Units. They have a memorial swim meet for him over at that pool. But I know exactly what you mean. You cut the bottom of your feet because of that. It's like sandpaper times 10. We will do a full renovation inside and outside. That's a lot of money, but that's a big pool. And so even the locker rooms need to be addressed. They need to be some serious attention to that. So the inside of the pool will be a modern style. I don't know the actual texture, but it's going to be better than what's there right now.
No, that's great. I'm looking forward to that. So you mentioned about the applications for the nonprofits. So I'm really interested in learning, you know, how that money's going to be divided, you know, what their plans for the community is with that money. So I know you said that information will be forthcoming, and so we'll stand by for that. I saw some discussion about the May Center. I'm not familiar with the May Center.
So the May Institute is the old nursing home that was acquired by the May Institute on Summer Street that we acquired, the city acquired. It's going to be a new school.
For the school, okay.
Yep, and our justification for the $4 million, it's like 3.9 or so. The conversation we're having with Plymouth County right now is it meets all the standards of ARPA, so it should be a legitimate ARPA expense. We've submitted it as such. We're working with the treasurer on that. We believe that will be satisfied and we'll get, in essence, reimbursed similar to the CARES Act on that.
That's great. That's really great news. And then just lastly, the rotunda on the top of the school department building. I know that's kind of found itself in disrepair.
Yeah.
Is that ARPA eligible or?
So we've had conversations. Jerry Cassidy, Representative Cassidy was able to get some money. And it was actually right before COVID, they were able to clean it up a bit. That is a historic building. It may potentially qualify for ESSER 3, potentially. But I'll tell you right now, and I think I said it here, and I'm going to say it again, I can't sit in good faith on the field of Marciano again for graduation of Brockton High and look at the Little Red Schoolhouse the way it is right now. Now, that does not meet the standards. We are going to renovate the Little Red Schoolhouse. We have to beautify that. That does not meet either the ESSER 3 funds, which is the school's Arpa money, or our own Arpa money. So we have to come up with some other creative way. So I don't know about the rotunda. I agree with you, it's an eyesore, that's a beautiful building. I went there as a little boy when it was a post office. So we need to try to figure out, Mike Thomas, Superintendent Thomas, all the Petronio and Chris Correa are committed to working with us on that. We had conversations. We need to fast track that now.
Okay. And the 4.3 for the May Center, that came out of the 98 million for the public safety complex because we had to switch over the school, or was that a separate funding?
3.9 though, wasn't it?
It's 3.9, and we have sought funding from the county's portion of ARPA money for that, which is why it does not appear on your list before you tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
I did misspeak a little while ago, I'm sorry. For the art photographs, I said it was the BRA and Adelsa Mendez and Robert Jenkins. It's actually students from Bridgewater State with Rob May leading the charge on that. So I just never want to mislead. I'm sorry about that. Thank you.
And if I could just offer, and maybe this is for Rob or whoever knows. So the Liberty Tree, what type of tree is that? Do we know?
It is a sycamore tree.
It's a sycamore.
It is a sycamore tree. And when you're on Frederick Douglass, again on the right, that little portion where where it's sprouted again, right? And where the plaque is there, that is not owned by the city of Brockton. It is owned by property owners on Legion Parkway that own a building. The goal is, I think there's two short-term goals, a short-term and a long-term goal. Short-term is the city of Brockton should do a friendly taking, because it's a taking anytime municipality buys something, right? Much like we did on Highland Street, much like what we did on the Schools for May Institute, that was technically a taking. My goal, and I already have Erica and the law department working on it, we have an appraiser done already. We've done a title exam on that property. That would be the actual portion that you can see right now when you're driving up. What the plan is for Liberty Park would be to go out farther behind that into the parking lot and actually make pretty much what I talked about a couple weeks ago with Marvin Hagler, a pocket park where the statue's going to be. I have humbly asked State Representative Jerry Cassidy, who serves that district, if we could potentially get some money from the state for a Frederick Douglass statue to go there as well, and he's advocating for that as well. So the short term is the city of Brockton should hopefully do a friendly taking to acquire what we can see right now, and then long schematic would be to make it a much larger pocket park. But Rob could address that, because I believe there's some schematics that were dropped off to each of your desks tonight.
So the schematic includes that
the larger portion,
okay.
Yes.
And then, so the Liberty Tree would actually be relocated to this?
No, it would still be,
it
would be incorporated into that.
Okay.
I would actually consider it, Councilor, phase one, phase two. Okay. Phase one is to buy where the tree is right now. Phase two would be to extend upon that area and make a pocket park type of thing.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Rob, did I address that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, and guests. To my colleagues in here, I just want to make sure that, because I know the questions will come up, but as you know, I run the Cape Verdean Association, and we did not apply for
We did not apply for that.
We did not apply for the grant because I wanted to make sure that we avoided the appearance of any favoritism or so when it came down to that. So I just want to, if you folks were thinking about it, don't bask, because we did not apply. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. When it comes to the Cosgrove pool, I live on the east side of town, and growing up in the city and not having the ability to go to the beach or having a pool in the backyard, in the sense, we relied heavily on the city pool, both the ones on the south side, Montello, you name it. But while I was in the Harrington administration, we redid the AZF pool, the Manning pool, and it came down to about a little less than $2 million back then in 2008 or so when we got it done. But it turned into a nice little swimming park. It wasn't just a swimming pool, you know? So my hope is that we will be able to do the same thing on this side of town as well, not just to redo the pool and do the things that we need to do at the existing facility itself, but to augment it in a way so that it actually provides the little boys and girls with an opportunity to do what is done on the west side of the city in terms of going to a playground area with the pool area and all that other stuff. Because I remember when I was in the mayor's office at the time, you know, kind of holding the state hostage in a sense until they added the things that they needed to add to that facility, because all they wanted to do is do the pool and that was the end of it, you know. But we basically kind of held DCR down and said, you know, if you want us to take over this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, because you've done it in some of the other communities that you've done this. So it's not fair that the city of Brockton just gets the pool and that's the end of it. And they put a bunch of bells and whistles on it that it's still one of the more beautiful of the facilities, because when it came down to it, even the other ones that were actually redone in some of the other parts in the state were coming down saying, why did Brockton get all of that stuff? You know, but that's basically, we held them down and said, you're going to do these things, otherwise we're not taking over the pool. So this is just something that I'm putting out there, because I know we've set aside somewhere around almost $4.5 million, that it just doesn't, because, you know, Mr. Mayor, the fear that I have is that a developer is going to look at this and say, oh, wow, they set aside $4.3 million for this pool. So they're going to come in with a design or something that resembles their interpretation of what needs to be done for $4.5 million or for $4 million. But I'm sure we can get a lot more of a bang for our buck than what probably is going to be pitched. So I think initially the asking has to be, no, we just don't want the pool done. We want to have a complex. Because if we spent $2 million back 10 years ago, we're spending $4.5 now, 10 years later, we should be able to get a little more than just the pool.
Yeah, and I first of all, I applaud you and Mayor Harrington at that time. I used to be the night watchman at that pool, so I know that pool. They got rid of the high dive. They got rid of the splash park. They enhanced the splash park. They now have this bucket that dumps water on the kids. It captures everything that kids want. I used to take my own kids there when they were little. So we will, I can't say we're going to mirror that 100%, Counselor, but we won't be short-sighted. We want it to be all-encompassing. We want it to be a fun family experience. We want to have some green space. We want to have some picnic area. We also want to keep the 50-meter because, again, that's a specialty for races. You know, the high dive concept is not good anymore, especially when you're a city that's self-insured. It's just not safe. So we will really, Council, look at everything that you guys did under the Harrington administration, see if we can match that and then some.
Yeah, I mean, what is that? ADA? Yeah, it is ADA. The one at the high school is ADA.
Yeah, it is.
Cosgrove is not.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right, well, you have to make it ADA, yes.
Add that to what you're saying, Councilor Rodriguez.
Right, but it's not, that one I know for a fact that it's not.
And we are,
ADA.
I just want to, I also want to say that we are doing summer swimming lessons at the Manning Pool. We did a lot of you were there yesterday, we did an outdoor youth event yesterday outside here, and we passed out flyers about learning how to swim up there. Yeah. We're going to do the same thing on the east side.
Yeah, because I think it's important for us just to kind of mirror at least, because I remember one of the problems that we had is that once the Manning opened, then the people on this side were saying, what about us? Right. You know, what are you going to do for us? And then it was kind of almost embarrassing because the machinery is old and some of the other things. I mean, I actually even got certified to be a pool operator because of the Manning pool. But I just hope that we basically, before we go out and put this stuff out, that we say, here's our ask, and this is what we hope that you're going to be able to put into this facility. So
I think also we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't talk to some of the people at the YMCA, Vivian, Renee, and the Boys and Girls Club. Like, what are some of their ideas as well? Because a lot of their kids, Cape Verde Association, a lot of those kids utilize that pool. Right. So what is it that kids are looking for? You know what I mean? Yeah. Different than when we were kids. Right. But I agree with you. We want to spend the money, but we really want to get something that's a wow factor as well.
Right. Also, I'm just going to, I see And by the way, I want to commend you guys for at least doing this, this work, because at least it kind of brings it out to light so everybody understands exactly what's going on. But in terms of parks, I've always had a problem with, somehow I was known as being, anti-trees and things like that. And that's not the case. I'm anti-abandoning trees. Because I said it to Rob May several times, even, when I was downstairs in the council, that if we're gonna plant trees in the streets, we ought to have a plan to take care of them. Because just to plant them, and we've got trees that, how they are. I mean, they're running amok all over the place, and it does a disservice to the community when we plant trees and there's absolutely no program in place to deal with the trees. So my thing is, if we can't put a plan in place to basically deal with the trees and have individuals to take care of those trees, we'd be better off not planting them on the streets. We can plant them in parks, in places where they're away from people, but not to do them, for instance, the ones that you see in the downtown area. Sometimes they just, there's branches dangling all over the place. It doesn't look uniform. You've got some of those that look like they failed to thrive in the sense. Some other looks like they're on steroids, and so it's just kind of, it makes the city look ugly when you look at it. We don't have a good program in there to deal with this, this tree management, especially in the public ways. So I know that we've got a lot of parks that we're talking about, and you see the pictures, with little, renditions of trees all over the place. It's all well and good, but we need to have a plan to deal with them. Because if we don't, then we shouldn't have them there. Because what it does, it kind of makes it, it puts all that work, all that effort that we're putting into it to go for naught, because we're not really doing a service to those trees. I know I'm probably going to get some emails from people thinking that I'm anti-tree. That's not the case. I'm anti-tree in roadways that actually grow out of whack, that just makes the city look like a dump. That's what that's one of the concerns that I have. So we need to somehow set aside some resources, through DPW, through another department somewhere, where somebody's actually going to be in charge of upkeeping the trees that we're planting, and the ones that we already have, because it doesn't look very good to the city.
No, I concur with you, and I think the wake-up call was when DCR came here, and they pretty much focused on Ward 2 and Ward 5 to do the tree plantings. They did get the Nelson Field on South Junior High. But my own in-laws watered trees at Thomaselli Square, because it was named after my mother-in-law's uncle that got blown up in World War II. They shouldn't have to do that. The city needs to have a watering process. So we've already spoken to Tim Carpenter, but I hear what you're saying, Moses, and I agree with you. We don't want to spend money on trees or greenery just to say we did it and they die. It's a waste of money. We need to make sure that we have a plan in place and we execute the plan and we do it on a regular basis. It's care and maintenance, You buy a $100 hydrangea bush, you and your wife plant it in your yard, you're going to make sure it doesn't die. It's the same concept.
Right. And finally, Mr. Mayor, just wanted to see if you can give us an update on the Shaw Center, the Shaw Center in the stadium. I know this is not part of the Arpa funds, but I know they were part of another fund. So is there anything moving forward with that particular facility?
Yeah, so we've been working diligently with Brian Kahn. Brian Kahn is the new owner of the Brockton Rocks. He bought it from Mr. English, Chris English. We've been working diligently with him. He will be having baseball. Opening day is late May. With that being said, as you all know, we had this infestation of raccoons. Who would have thought raccoons travel in packs, but they do. So the first thing we needed to do was strip the interior, and we gutted the place. And we then needed to figure out what was going to be vital for baseball to be this year. Mr. Kahn worked with actually Troy and myself to give us a wish list of what he needs versus what can happen down the fact. We ordered from Indiana or Iowa, I'm not sure which one it was, it might have been Indiana, all new lockers. They've already been delivered. We used our in-house technicians to install those. They also wanted, the flooring when you go into a skating rink, it's like that rubber flooring, They wanted that because the goal is to make it multi-purpose baseball, but they want to put a rink and have some hockey up there as well. So they wanted to make sure the flooring was right. We were able to find that on the state bid list as well. So Troy, you might have some more updates from Dan Smith and Amoresco. But we have been working diligently with Dan Smith's group, Amoresco, who were the ones that did the original HVAC systems so that we could retrofit. We spent $1 million. We got it reimbursed under the CARES Act, so we could have the Shaw's Center as a testing and vaccine site. First thing we needed to do before we could even open it up again was to get an HVAC. We were able to extend that under the state contract, so Amoresco did that. Amoresco was also able to then take the contract with approval of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to do work on the Campanelli Stadium side as well. It's a work in progress, I'll be honest with you. We're talking about phases. There's going to be a lot of phases there because they want to have high-end baseball. The ultimate goal is to have high-end baseball there. This year, though, there's going to be really great Brockton Rocks baseball. We have Manny Ramirez's son playing there. We have Pedro's son playing there. We have a lot of big league players, kids playing for the Brockton Rocks this year, which is great, right? It's great. You're going to see quality baseball. But in terms of the shell of what's there, it's been gutted out. And Troy, if you could give an update relative to Dan's.
I think the mayor actually covered it very well. The only other issue in addition to what he's described is a complete upgrade of the HVAC systems, the lighting, both interior inside the stadium and in the administrative offices and in the conference center, and also the outdoor lighting, which allows people to gather at night. So all of those system improvements have been completed. And they were costly, but they were necessary for a building that was built many years ago and has not received the maintenance and upkeep that it should have. So that's a good example of the kinds of improvements we will make in the rest of the city's buildings with these funds.
What about the Shaw Center? What is it being used currently? Are we still?
So we are still, a lot of people keep calling and say, hey, can we rent it out? We're still doing shots up there. Board of Health's doing it one day a week. Saturday is still being done with DPH working with us. The trailer that's outside, first was Neighborhood Health Center, then it was Imperative Health with the DPH. We're gonna have to ramp that up again because our numbers are going up a little bit. We also still utilize that for our test kits that are stored there as well. So we are not in the position at this time to rent out the Shaw Center. We're still using it for purposes of COVID and COVID-related battles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Castro, followed by Counselor Teixeira.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. I just wanted to make a general comment. I think the list is terrific. I know, I did some checking. I know that it complies with Arpa, and I knew that it would. You've been working on it for months. That's my job, Dan. And I just wanted to say, I had the opportunity to look on the website of the Brookings Institute, and they have lists of what other communities are doing nationally with ARPA funds. And I'd love to put a plug in, besides for my playgrounds, in Ward 4, for something that would be more artistic or cultural. Residents are coming to me all the time about how there's so little to do in the community. And it seems like other communities are addressing this. As Boston had a listing, something about cultural. I'd be happy to work with you to look into it further, but just something that would interest more of our community. It might be street art. It might, it might be someplace performance related. Just to make more for our residents to enjoy, especially families.
Yeah, and I support that, and I think, I will say this, when we had the 21 mayors come to Brockton for the MMA, we were way ahead of the curve on what most mayors had even contemplated doing, right? And they also thought I was foolish to be working with the city council. No, it's a mayor's thing. My view is we're all elected, let's work together, we're all living in Brockton, we all pay taxes, let's get the job done. I will tell you that the other tranche of money that our friends in the county, and I put you on the Plymouth County Advisory Board so you can be an advocate for us on that, Counselor, we will have some additional money. Anything that we can do, and I think what was illustrated yesterday, Shirley, you were there, we had over 250 kids outside yesterday. And yeah, I know you were. We need to be able to do that. So if you can borrow some ideas from other municipalities in the Commonwealth that would fit nicely into Brockton, I say let's go for it, and I'll work with you, and Dan will work with you on that as well. Any of you.
Thank you.
I would suggest also that if you want to look at a list of other entities, 48 states do government by county. Massachusetts is a little unique, so if you go to the National Association of Counties, which is NACO, you'll find a list of what some of the counties are doing also.
Thank you.
One more thing, Counselor, on that. I think one of the advantages of the work we propose at the War Memorial is making that beautiful auditorium available for concerts, the symphony perhaps, theater. And so it's really, many cities have a vibrant arts venue where people can come and perform. And I believe, as I know the mayor does, that when we have a restored War Memorial, we'll have that venue where people can come and community theater and the symphony and other artistic organizations can provide entertainment.
That sounds very promising. Thank you.
I also will publicly, before you bring, it's not final yet, but we tendered an offer to a new Veterans Affair, the new Dave Farrell. And this person, I think, is going to bring a really fresh approach that I think we want to use that building. That was for the veterans, right? That was for the veterans. That was for the Moses and the Jeffs that served our nation. So we need to make sure we maximize that. Back in the day, there was a bowling alley in the cellar. That's probably never going to be brought back. But they used to come there for luncheons, right? The cafeteria is mammoth down there. So I think, again, we are going to be short-sighted if we don't turn over every rock to see how we can magnify that, and the potential is great, but we have to invest the money to bring it up to speed. And then I think, you know, if you build it, they will come approach, and I believe that will happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Texera.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, CFO. I got a quick question or pledge. Great work.
Thank you, Counselor.
And, but there's any room there that we can work on a soccer field, a turf soccer field, especially for our youth. We got so many talented youths in this city, and we need to invest on them.
So I support that. I will tell you, when Moses was mayor, we have grant funded and bond authorization for that. I also will tell you, when I served with Mark and Tom on the school committee, there's already a schematic to make the Policino Field up at Brockton High behind, that's where my kids play soccer, Brockton Youth Soccer plays there, to turn that into a turf regulation field as well. Superintendent already has the schematics and the plans. So I know for a fact, because my boy plays high school soccer at another high school, that when he plays Brockton High, they come and play there. It's not in good shape right now, the Billy Policino Field. So I will work with you on that, Counselor. I support that. Soccer is the sport in Brockton, and we need to make sure we provide the resources vis-a-vis really good fields. You can't have Hillstrom Field right now where my daughter's gonna blow her ACL because there's divots and rivets, and it's not a good field. It's gonna be a good field because we're gonna spend money on it, so I support that.
All right, thank you.
And if you have any ideas, Counselor, of locations, I just say the Policino Field because it's maximized for Brockton High. But again, we're up for any opportunities.
Yeah, definitely, I got some ideas.
Thank you, Counselor.
We'll be able to share. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Mendez.
Hello, thank you so much for being here tonight, Mayor. This is awesome. I can't wait to see all of this completed. The question that I have is regarding the public input survey. Do we have approximately an idea of how many people that actually took the time to answer the survey? Do we know?
Yes, Counsel, we do.
And as he's looking for that, the reason that I asked that is because we all know that COVID impacted very hard to the low-income earners and also people that limited English proficiency. So I think it's very important now that in order to have an equitable distribution of funds, that we make an effort to go out and really this hard to reach population, but hear their voice and see how we can also benefit them from all these great projects. But yeah.
The mayor doesn't have his glasses on, so I'll, okay.
I got just trying to see it. 229 total responses, 229 individuals. There were 148 female, 77 male, 2 non-binary, total of 239. And out of that, 229, I apologize. Jesus, my eyes are terrible. 229, I'm sorry, I said 239. And 229 of them were Brockton residents. They had to opine if they were Brockton residents. So again, 100% of those folks lived in the city. It's still an open survey right now. I checked with Paul before I came here. So again, if people want to take the time, we want to hear from them. So it's on the city website, brocktonma.us, so it's there. And again, I think what we learned when we did the application for the nonprofits, when we did those 3 events, again, I had Joe Francois do Haitian Creole, I had Davis and Perez do the Spanish, Brady did the English, and then for the Cape Verdean Creole, it was Adelsa Mendez from BRA came over and helped us on that. So again, let's continue to tell people that it's out there. We're doing social media blast on it. 229 people, that's a pretty good snapshot of folks, but it'd be better if it was 529 people, in my humble opinion.
No, and I attended some of the meetings that you had for the nonprofits. Those were very informative. I've learned a lot just being part of it. All right, the surveys, are they just in English or in other languages too?
Yeah, Paul, when they go on the surveys, it's just English at this point? It's just English at this point,
Okay.
Counselor. Yeah.
Okay, we'll work on getting
will.
in other languages, but thank you for the information.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor D'Agostino.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Sullivan and Dan and Troy for being here and for the work on this presentation you put together. I appreciate
Counselor,
it.
thank you.
Couple quick things. When you were going through all the numbers, it was mentioned that we were hoping that we would get about 16 million from Plymouth County. Again, we don't, if I understand
I
right.
want to go higher than that, but I'll be satisfied at 16, but 18 would be better, in my opinion.
Right, and I agree with you, 18 would be great. But we don't have that nailed down just yet.
We do not.
The 4.2 million that was mentioned for the May Center.
Yes.
Is that within that 16 to 18 million?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we're really looking at about 12 plus maybe remaining after that, because that's
I went to
part of that.
Brockton High, my math would be 14 million in addition to that 4.2.
Hey.
Hopefully it's 18. Let's go with 18 as the number. Okay. And then also I was wondering, and what I'm really getting to is the one thing that we haven't really talked much about, but we've said there'll be other money coming, is the roads, pipes, right? That part that and I know all of us get phone calls about that stuff every day. I'm sure I know you do as well, right?
Yes.
And then there's Build Back Better, the bipartisan infrastructure bill that's coming as well. Now, do we have any estimates on what
We
that
don't.
might look
I
like?
actually, my birthday's next week, April 27th, and I'm going in that day with some folks, including Rob and Robert Jenkins and Troy and Sydney, to go have a sit-down with Lieutenant Governor Polito to talk about projects in Brockton. I'm going to ask her if she could give us a gauge. Mr. President sat in my office last week with the state delegation. We're doing that on a regular basis with the senator and the 2 reps at this time. We'll have a 3rd rep in the near future as well. So, you know, I don't have an answer. I know that tranche of money, according to both Senator Markey and both congressmen, is going to the Commonwealth. It's not coming to the municipality or to the county. So I don't know. All I know is we have 106,000 people in the city of Brockton. The federal census shows we need to get our fair share. Our pipes are from 1880. Senator Markey agreed with me. He also agreed that the broadband survey we're doing right now is brilliant. We need to have internet access for all residents. So broadband falls under Arpa as well. And there may be some additional money on the federal level to address that, potentially, is what he told us.
Okay, all right, so there could be more money there. And so we still don't know what we're dealing with from the infrastructure bill, what kind of money we'll get there.
Nope.
Do we know, because this was a point somebody raised to me, does the Commonwealth have to distribute that, or could they say, we're going to use it for highways, we're going to use it for state-level projects?
No, they have to disperse it, don't they?
It depends on the tranche. Arpa has a lot of different buckets of money. Some go directly to counties, some go directly to the cities and towns, and some go to states for purposes. So if the purpose is for water.
Right, I'm talking about the bipartisan infrastructure bill.
Oh, for Build Back Better, it's not signed yet, so we don't know.
So we don't even, and we also don't know if it's ever going to happen either. I mean, it's not signed, it may not get signed.
No, it's gonna happen.
No, the bipartisan infrastructure law was passed by the House and the Senate and signed by the president. So
Oh, it
that
was,
money
all right.
is on its way. The answer to the question,
I thought he said it wasn't signed.
I think he was talking about Build Back Better.
Oh, all right, I'm
We're
sorry.
in this era where there are so many sources of funding, it's easy to confuse them, right? This has never happened in any of our
Good problem to
careers.
have.
It is. So the state will receive the money for the purpose of distributing it to the cities and towns. I believe the mayor is correct, that there is little, if any, possibility that the state would keep the money and not distribute it to the cities and towns.
All right, so we know it's coming.
What was encouraged to us is those that speak the loudest get the most results. So we need to advocate. I know the reps and senator are advocating. I know Congressman Lynch and Senator Markey are advocating. We did not meet with Senator Warren. She wasn't able to meet with us, but we did put in a request for an earmark on the senator's side as well. But we have, as I expressed to Ed Markey, we have pipes from 1880. We have pipes that were on the ground when Edison was walking the streets of Brockton. So we need to do something. We're hemorrhaging right now. Band-Aid approaches do not work anymore. Right. And so we also, why I met with Congressman Keating was, we need to also think about the piping that goes to Silver Lake that brings it back here, and it goes through municipalities as well.
Right, okay. I ask because obviously these are all great projects, worthwhile projects. I see the need for each and every one of them and the benefit to each and every one of them. But we all know that our pipes and roads are huge issues in the city. And so I guess I'm just trying to make sure and be comfortable that there is substantial money still yet to come.
Well,
that we can address
what I
that.
am happy, both Jack, the president and I sat in the meeting with the delegation the other day. It does appear that Chapter 90 should be doubled this year. Mm-hmm. Which is a win-win for us, right? When we do our wish list of ward streets, Pat Hill has opined on that as well. Rob, you just you heard the same thing. So that's going to be really great for a city such as Brockton. Right. I wish I could say to you, Councilor, yeah, Brockton's going to get X amount of money for infrastructure. We just don't know that yet. Right. We are going to get something, but right now we have to plan best case. Hope for the best case scenario right now. And again, that's why some of these numbers, I'm not gonna say inflated, but some of them are probably higher than reality when we do it. The pool's probably not gonna cost us $4 million, but if it's 3.8, and we can spend 4 to do something else that's gonna be good for kids, you spend the extra 200 grand to do that. I just don't know yet what that infrastructure money's gonna be.
Okay. And then you mentioned, some of these projects, you're right. I mean, they may come in under budget.
Yep.
And you'll come back and we can have conversation about how that gets reallocated?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I made a pledge to all of you, and we're gonna continue to do that. Tonight is, one of many nights. Again, we need to do this the right way. We need to spend the money so that when we're no longer elected officials, we can say we did it right back then. And we will do it right. And that's why Dan Pilata's here. And that's why we're gonna have one of those house doctor or architects that are gonna help us as well. This isn't my skill set, I wanna make sure that, we are gonna be extremely proud. Much like the public safety building, we're gonna be extremely proud of that. That's a facility that is gonna be a legacy project. This is gonna be legacy projects that are gonna touch all 7 wards.
Excellent. And then just 2 other things. The Shaw Center was brought up earlier, and I suspect it's probably premature, but I'll ask it anyway. Hopefully as COVID winds down, which, I know that we're seeing our numbers uptick, and so we may not be done yet. But is there thought to, once we don't need the Shaw Center banquet facility as for testing, for vaccinations, what might happen there?
Yeah, January 6, 2020, I took the pledge up there and I made a promise. We need to have a state-of-the-art facility in Brockton that we're proud of. The fact that I had to go to Lombardo's, now granted, I had 800 people at the inauguration ball. We wouldn't have fit that at the Shaw's. But I'm also working with Counselor and also State Rep Dubois on the conference center over at Massasoit. It wouldn't be a bad thing to have two different facilities, one on the east side, one on the west side, that can accommodate events. I will tell you right now, for the amount of money we're putting into the Shaw Center, we are going to use that to benefit Brockton. And we're going to have events there, and we're going to have forums there like we did when it first opened, when Harrington and units were in office. It fell into disrepair, COVID came, but what hasn't changed is our commitment to have that facility state-of-the-art.
Okay, great, thank you, I appreciate that. And there's the nonprofit fund distribution list. Could that be sent to the counselors of who's planning to be awarded?
Yeah, we definitely can. Paul can do that. And again, we are going to do an official presentation that all of you, I'd love to have you here. We have notified, folks that made the cut, and unfortunately, there were a few that just didn't meet the federal standards. Wish I could have given it to all 46, but you have to abide by the practice and the law, so.
Right, of course, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, you can definitely get that, yeah.
All right, I would appreciate that, and then I'll just, this is more of a comment. You talked about how some other mayors had taken the approach of this is a mayor thing, and I do appreciate that we are working as a team, because when our city's elected officials, mayor and city council work as a team, Brockton wins, right? Everybody's better off when we're working as a team and we're not working against each other. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's only two municipalities, two cities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the city of Brockton, the city of Lynn, that the mayors are doing that. And I'm proud of the fact that we're doing that. We negotiated in good faith, right? We finally got to 750. I'm happy with that. Troy's happy with that. Y'all happy with that. But ultimately, what we have to figure out is how we can work with our friends in the county to get more money. That's something we need to work on.
Yes, for sure. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I
Thank
have.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor.
You did. May I just?
Never said that in my life.
Council, with regard to the water and sewer projects, we did compile a really comprehensive list, which included a lot of water and sewer projects. And so it is the intention to do some of the design work through Arpa, because once the design work is done, you're eligible for SRF and WSRF loans through the Commonwealth, where there's portions of debt forgiveness. So we're looking forward to trying to accomplish that on the priorities that Pat Hill has set forth. And I read the list of the initial projects that are going to be going forward with Plymouth County money, but we will update you as we're going forward.
The list, is that?
It's on that spreadsheet.
It's on the spreadsheet.
PowerPoint.
Gotcha, all right.
What page is that, Dan, just for the record?
Oh, all right, I
you
remember
mean-
what you're talking about. All right, so there isn't a list of specific neighborhood. This is what we saw tonight in the PowerPoint.
Yep.
Yes, okay, that I saw, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, counselors, if there's nobody who hasn't spoken yet, I'm going to go to counselors who've already spoken. Counselor Farwell, followed by Counselor Azak.
Gentlemen, just to finish up, and Mr. Mayor, once these projects are done, it is going to be so important to make sure we build into the annual operating budget the personnel, the maintenance, whatever needs to be done to preserve all of the work that we accomplish with ARPA funds. And I'm not asking for you to comment tonight on facts and figures, but it would be interesting to know, for example, are we going to enhance security at the parks and playgrounds with either cameras or an emergency telephone? All of the things that will attract more people to use the very facilities in the areas that we're improving. The second question is, if Mr. English no longer owns the rocks, is he still the lessee up there? Or do we now?
It's assigned to the new buyer, that's the terms.
Okay, so I respectfully, because tens of thousands of dollars in unpaid water and sewer fees went uncollected in past years. I was up there and I found the place in deplorable condition, and that was 2 or 3 years ago. I'd like to see the new lease, if you could send it out to all of us.
I'll have the solicitor do that.
Yeah, because I'd like to know who's going to be paying. We want to make sure that the water and sewer charges are paid properly. The other thing, the complaint I used to get is that when the city was paying for the electricity, the field lights would be left on until 1 or 2 in the morning, and I had someone who would always call me and say, why are you allowing that? So hopefully we'll build in an automatic timing system. I think there are a lot of economies that we could accomplish up there as you go through that project.
I concur with you, Counselor. I also know some of the counselors were there the night we did the exterior light display. It's an investment that we put that we're going to get a really good return on investment. In terms of keeping them on, when I was on this body for 14 years, that was my biggest bugaboo, because I drive by it every night and see it, and it would tick me off. So there's a changing of the guard. It's a breath of fresh air, in my opinion, and you will be able to meet this gentleman sooner than later.
All right, and the last thing that was not asked tonight, and again, we don't need it right away, but as you go through the bidding and you select the vendors, just the target dates when you think the work might be completed. For example, do you think that we'll have the pool done by not this year, but the following year? And, you know, the work at City Hall, it would be interesting to me to see where we're going to stand with those completion dates.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we are going to be running into, much like every other city in the United States of America, is the supply chain delay. And a good example, again, is the supplies to build the Marvin Hagler statue, and that's just small scale, but it's so delayed out right now. So we will definitely give updates to all the counselors, give updates to the school committee as well for any school projects. We wouldn't have those dates right now, but when we get to where we feel it's a true date, or at least a 80% completion date or something like that, we'll share that, absolutely. It only benefits everybody, you know?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor.
There is a master schedule, Counselor. So
Sorry?
we do have a master schedule of all the projects, and we are working towards completing it. It's, 328 lines long. It's about 4 foot long. It's in Gantt form. It's for us to stay on track, and happy to report that the procurement of all the designers was done before May 1st, so we're still on track.
You and I know that's going to fluctuate probably a lot, but at least the public might want to know, well, gee, if we're going to spend this money, when can we reasonably expect to see some progress, something visual?
I think with the diligence we're going to be doing, and there's going to be a lot of diligence in this building, will determine the start date. And, and the amount of work will determine the start date, and when the work will be done, to not interfere with city business. There's so many things that we have to do as a team that we'll be doing, and we'll be updating you as we go forward.
The other thing I think, Counselor, that you brought up, which is extremely important, not this next budget that we're going to be going through in early June, when the president calls the dates, but the subsequent budgets, and then some, and then some. We need to continue to add money to this, because when we spend X amount of money on this building, we need to maintain that. You know what I mean? When you hire a mason to do your front steps of your house, you're going to keep maintaining that. Electrician, all that stuff. So, it's going to be something that needs to go forward in many budgets to come, but we have to do that. And that's something Troy and his team have already been kind of doing some initial planning on. We would never have any hard numbers yet, but this body and whoever the mayor is and whoever the city councils have to understand that you have to put money. You can't put good money into a bad endeavor, so we'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to ask for a little leeway, as this isn't directly related to ARPA funds, but related to something that's come up a few times this evening, which is the Shaw Center and the Rock Stadium. So when we toured it after Mr. English and his team, we found it in a total disaster and disrepair, and the infestation of the raccoons, as well as a lot of other damages that were done to the building, to the locker rooms. I'm just asking, and I'm figuring you, Mayor, being an attorney, we've already covered our ourselves and not allowing this to happen again? I mean, I'm assuming it's in the new contract. I hope it is.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm here as the mayor, not as a lawyer for the city. We have great lawyers for the city that negotiate on behalf of the city. So I can't opine on to the legalese because that's not my role here. But what I will tell you is that we dotted the i's, crossed the t's. Who would have thought that it would have taken forever to get rid of raccoons? But it did, it did, it did. And then the little buggers came back again, and we had to get rid of them again. But we need that to be a gem. And I know that the gentleman who toured it has the same vision that we do. That's a real showpiece in the city of Brockton, and it's not just for baseball. And it won't just be for baseball. It will maximize a lot of family entertainment.
Okay, I just feel we need to protect us. The city needs to protect itself from a tenant, because the previous tenant obviously let it get to a point where then it became our responsibility. And I just would ask that our legal department or whoever it is, that we make sure that it's in our contract, that whatever we need to do, that we don't find ourselves a few years down the line and similar issues that have happened with them. So
The gentleman that's the general manager, Tom Tracy, he has stayed on. He's very familiar with the situation. He's walked it with us. He's walked it with Mr. Khan. They get it.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council?
Second.
Motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, Mr. Clark.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Counselors, that's the end of our agenda. If there's any moments of personal privilege,
Mr. Chairman.
Counselor Azak.
Thank you. I would just like to remind everybody that Keep Brockton Beautiful, the citywide cleanup is Saturday, May 7th. Please just contact the Pat Sullivan at the recycling center if you or your group is interested in cleaning up a certain area in the city, or you can get more information on the city website. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Counselor D'Agostino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real quick, I'd just like to thank all of the residents from Ward 3 who showed up for our ward meeting last week. I'd like to thank John Messia from the Mayor's Office for joining us, as well as Rob May and Officer Salamone from Brockton Police for coming as well. The facility staff at the Kennedy School kept the building open for us, cleaned up after us. And then, of course, some of my colleagues who joined us, Councilors Mendez, Farwell, Nicastro, and Lally. So I just wanted to thank everybody, and again, the residents who came and contributed, and we had some great discussions, and it was a great meeting, and so I just appreciate everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Seeing no other business, we are adjourned.
Hi. Starting April 7th on BCA, we got a new look. We have public, educational, government, and HD. Look for them all.